So hey guys, I'm apparently popular already. That's pretty awesome. I'm Will Lefevers. I've been craft brewing for about 11 years, maybe a little over 10, a little under 11. I had a technical talk prep. I was going to talk about how you build the stuff that makes the beer, but I figured maybe for this crowd that's a little bit too far to go, or maybe I'm not sure I want to go really deep into the technical detail. I mean, I can get really geeky about this stuff because I'm a complete beer nerd, but probably not entirely necessary. So by way of intro, I'm a brewer. I have done pretty much every single style you can imagine. I've done every single recipe you can, well, not every recipe you can imagine because you're probably pretty imaginative, but pretty much if it's possible to do, I've done it. I'm going all the way from the crappiest pale beers you might find at certain macro breweries out in Colorado, pretty much to the top of the heap. I'm talking like the great barley wines, the 14%ers, the Belgians, you name it, we got it. I use some geek with me. I usually do some calculations with some software along the ways, but I don't necessarily have to. Really what it comes down to is you brew what you want. And the moral story here is, it ain't rocket science. So the important part here is that anyone can brew, like literally anyone can brew. The process takes about 20 days to do from start to finish. But it's not like you're really committing that kind of time. You're not really doing 20 days of, oh my God, I'm brewing right now, I can't do anything else. It's really more like 5 hours for 5 gallons, which is about the size of an average batch. The beauty of that in a nutshell is you really only brew maybe once or twice a month, unless you're neurotic like me. So it's really not that much time investment to produce a really great beer. And if you can boil water, you can make beer. It's that easy. When I talk about beer, typically I get 3 questions from most folks. It's the whole, oh, you're a home brewer, that sounds really hard. No, not at all. The first question I always get is, will my beer be any good? And the honest truth is absolutely. Your beer will be fresher and better than the vast majority of store-bought beer you've ever had. Partially because it's your work, and partially because fresher beer is better. Yours comes right out of the bottle, right off the tap, and it's in your hot little hand. It didn't have to cross 3,000 miles to get here through various and sundry strange conditions. It will be tailored to your taste, and it will be uniquely yours, which is kind of important because most of us that like beer, we have a style we like. We have a variation we like. There's something in there that we're really into. So if you like more of this and less of that, if you're home brewing, you can pretty much just tweak and dial and optimize the way you want it to be. It looks complicated, believe me, it's not. So the second question, is it complicated? Absolutely not. Like I said, if you can boil, you can make beer. There are really only 4 ingredients, right? You got water, we can find that around here somewhere. You've got malt, you've got hops, that's the green cones you saw earlier, and you've got yeast. And yeast do the vast majority of the work for you. And there's really only 2 processes in this thing, right? There's the boiling process, where you break down the ingredients and let the yeast go at them. And then you have a bottling priming process, where you transfer into something that you want it to carbonate in, and it carbonates on its own. Basically, the yeast does all the work. You're just kind of a caretaker guiding the process along. And there's infinite variation according to your taste. The next question I always get is it expensive? Absolutely not. I've got my batches down to about $25 to $35 for 5 gallons, which if you run the math out, is about $2 to $4 per 6-pack. That's 1/3 of the cost of top-shelf microbrews, and honestly, my stuff is better. Anybody ever heard of Pliny the Elder? Can you get it here? I've got it on tap. I've got a really good clone. Sounds like a plan. So the last question I usually get is, why should I brew? Well, in a community like this, it shouldn't be too difficult to sell you guys on the idea that brewing is good, or maybe you like good beer, or maybe there's some pretty cool stuff you could do with it. And given the fact there's infinite variation in recipe, and you can keep playing with it, you can take any style, cream ale, maybe you want to do Boddingtons, perfect, all the way down. You can get it done in 2 or 3 batches and have it zeroed into exactly the way you want it to taste. It's a craft. You can spend as much time, energy, effort as you want on it. It's also a community. I have lived in tons and tons of towns, started plenty of brew clubs, and there's always going to be a community around you. There's always going to be plenty of people who want to get together, talk beer, do beer, have a good time, probably drink beer. That sort of goes with the territory. But there's always a community every place I've been. And the best part of all this is we as humans have been doing this for 8,000 years. We were able to complete brewing processes in the darkest of the dark ages with no scientific equipment, where the brewer pretty much walked up to his bench and said, well, if my leather apron sticks to the bench, it's the right specific gravity to transfer. It was that easy. So we've been doing it for 8,000 years. My question to you is, why not you? I'm Will. Thanks for listening.